All right, so let's quickly talk about some big updates. President Trump is on his way or has already arrived in Geneva, and there's some big developments with regards to Iran and the U.S. having reached a deal, especially with the nuclear situation. Let's talk about it, let's get into it, and see where we might be going, especially with the whole Obama situation. All right, so it's being officially reported that Trump and Iran have come to an agreement regarding a framework around the ceasefire at the G7 summit. So the memorandum signed electronically Sunday by Trump VP J.D. Vance and Iran's Parliament Speaker Mohammad Ghalibaf extends a ceasefire into 60 days of talks and aims to reopen the Strait of Hormuz to pre-war shipping within 30 days. It freezes Iran's nuclear program at current levels with no U.S. sanctions or Iranian enrichment regarding the nuclear program, setting up negotiations on sanctions relief and frozen assets up to $25 billion, though Trump insists on verifiable no nukes pledges first. Markets cheered with oil prices dropping over 4% below $78 a barrel, while critics from Democrats to some Republicans question its strength and rumored costs like a denied $300 billion fund. Now, very quickly, there was talk that Iran would get up to $300 billion from the Gulf states to possibly help with rebuilding, but Trump denies that this is actually from the U.S., but it's being provided by its Arab neighbors. And he also posted on the 15th, Iran has agreed to never have a nuclear weapon. Also, the story that the U.S. is paying Iran $300 million is fake news put out by the Democrats, President DJT. And he also mentioned ships are starting to move, many loaded up with oil out of the Strait of Hormuz. They're going along the southern highway, which is totally safe, secure, and pristine. There are other areas of travel also. And what's interesting is that during the press conference at the G7 summit, he mentions that they will read out word for word the memorandum together with Iran so that the media covers it fairly. And this is what he says.
But I'll not only release it, I'll probably have a press conference and read it to you word by word so that the press covers it accurately, because it's a very important document. And unlike Obama, who could have destroyed the Middle East with a horrible JCPOA, it is the worst agreement. That was a road to a nuclear weapon. Mine is a wall against a nuclear weapon. I mean, I see these people say, but we already had one. That was the words. He paid a fortune for it. We paid nothing.
And speaking of Obama, he actually went on Good Morning America and said that he was doubtful that any Iran deal will be different than the past. Now, that's crazy because, again, in some sense, if you think about it from the deep state perspective and what they're doing in terms of panicking, they're going on this media run. In the interview, he said, it is doubtful that any agreement that arises is going to be significantly different or a significant improvement from the deal that we had in the first place and had worked for such a long stretch of time before we, the U.S., pulled out of it, Obama told Roberts in the interview, which took place at the Obama Presidential Center in Chicago. And then he goes on here to talk and downplay and then condemn what Trump has been saying. And so where he says that deals don't solve 100% of the problem, but solve 80-90% of the problem while avoiding the necessity of going to war. So he says a lot of different things to make it seem less than it is. And we'll get into this in a little bit here. But again, some of the media and the panicking we've seen from previous people as the time ticks closer for some of them, this is part of that last-ditch effort, so to speak. And what's also interesting is that Iran's Deputy Foreign Minister Kazem Garibabadi says that all of Iran's key positions and major issues have been included in the draft memorandum. And he says in Iranian state media, after the official signing, we'll definitely publish the text. So they both agree that they will publish whatever is being agreed to. But what's also interesting is that he goes and says this, quote, the enemy thought the attacks would make negotiations fanatical, but after a few hours, the U.S. was forced to accept signing the understandings with Iran thanks to decisive warnings of our military and security commanders. He's basically saying our threats worked, America folded. And again, note the narrative in terms of how they need to project the superiority or the stability, strength of Iran. Now, Vice President J.D. Vance says something very well in terms of spelling out what's happening and what's needing to happen to comply with things going forward. So listen to what he says.
Will nuclear inspectors be allowed back in? Yes, absolutely. That's in fact one of the core parts of the agreement is that the IAEA and the United States are going to help Iran destroy the highly enriched stockpile. And that's something that's spelled out very clearly in the MOU. Now, here's an interesting just structural background point I think about this that's important for the American people to understand is there are a lot of contemplated benefits in this MOU for the Iranians. There's a complete transformation of their economy. There's sanctions relief, but all of these benefits only happen if the Iranians comply with their end of the bargain. We sort of set this up where we could reward the Iranians for good behavior, where if they do the things that they're promising, they destroy the enriched stockpile of uranium in consultation with others. They commit long-term to a verifiable pathway to where they're not going to have a nuclear weapon. They actually promote regional stability rather than funding regional terrorism. All these things happen. The Iranians get a lot of benefits out of this negotiation. But if none of those things happen, then the Iranians don't get any of those benefits. And that's really how we make them honest. This is an agreement fundamentally that I think is going to transform the Middle East, but it's built around verification.
Remember, he's saying here that the nuclear dust, the uranium, is a core part of this deal, that they must go in, they must examine and verify it, and then also destroy it. And there are conditions. If they don't meet it, then they're not going to get the other benefits. And like many of us have been saying from the beginning, it has been about the evidence, about the uranium, and making sure it's tied back to whoever funded and enabled this to happen, which President Trump has been continually saying is Obama, among many other people. Now, Clandestine has this commentary that I want to read. There are quite a few similarities between Iran and Ukraine. Both are CIA/deep state proxies that housed rogue weapons of mass destruction created by the Obama administration, nuclear weapons in Iran, biological weapons in Ukraine. This means that both Trump and Putin are hunting Obama and cleaning up his global network of rogue WMDs. Obama offshored U.S. technology, weaponry, and gave U.S. military-grade nuclear/biological weapons to the deep state families. That's what both the conflicts in Ukraine and Iran are about. Obama's global WMD terrorist network that the deep state intended to use to start World War III and implement total global domination. Russia military literally accused Obama of crimes against humanity at the UN for the biolabs in Ukraine, and Trump has openly accused Obama of giving up Iran nuclear weapons. Both Trump and Putin want Obama and his administration for trying to start World War III with rogue weapons of mass destruction in Iran, Ukraine, and perhaps other places as well. The current global geopolitical landscape revolves around the crimes committed by the Obama administration. Now, that's absolutely crazy because Trump, in alignment with what he's been saying publicly, what he's been posting, and now what he's going to be doing going forward, not only at the G7 summit, but also with everything else coming to a conclusion in some sense with this campaign in Iran. And now with the disclosure, with what you saw with DNI Tulsi Gabbard talking about the bioweapon lab development in Ukraine, among many other places, is going to set the course for justice and for other things. Who knows what's going to happen? But one thing's for sure, many people that have been talking about this, including Q and many others that have been deemed conspiracy, is coming to fruition in the natural realm here, in the public space. It's no more conspiracy. People are literally talking about it. So let's see what happens in the next couple of weeks and months. But the development here is pretty crazy as we move into this next chapter. So more to come. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Also, if you guys want to support me, you guys know I'm listener supported. Would love all the financial support that I can get. We're trying to reach our goal for this month. All that information is down below in the givesendgo.com link in the description. Also have PayPal, Zelle, Venmo. Love you guys. Talk to you guys very soon.